Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another one of our live panel discussions from the JeopardyFan.com. This is number 22. I am Andy Saunders, and I am once again moderating tonight's discussion. We have a nice panel with us again tonight to discuss both Jeopardy and Sports Jeopardy. First up, let us welcome the most recent Tournament of Champions winner, Ben Ingram. Yes, that's what we get to call you now. And also we have the most recent five-time champion joining us, John Schultz. Welcome back, John. We also have Dara Gacheski from last Monday, who's joining us once again. We also have the founder of the JeopardyFan.com, Jeannie Kenkel, who I'm sure I think she's having some video difficulties, but that's okay. I'm sure she can chime in just fine. Also, we have Terrence Jordan joining us once again. Thank you for joining us. And Shimri Yo-Yo, he was on last week's Sports Jeopardy episode. So we've got some Sports Jeopardy, so we might as well start with that. First up, a few times Dan Patrick has said now that we've got 160 players, though I think only 150 are airing. Is he including the 10 alternates in that, I guess? And are those alternates actually going to get a chance to play? Anything from Shimri or Terrence on that one?
I'm not sure. They didn't let us know necessarily about the alternates. I know one of the alternates of the day that I taped actually ended up getting on the next day, so you think was on the third episode, Wayne. So we weren't given any details concerning that.
Okay.
So we had one alternate also on ours, and he didn't get to play that day, but he was a local guy. I think he lived in Los Angeles, and they said that he was guaranteed to go on the next day's taping if he didn't get on with us. So I don't remember who he was or what he looked like, but I'm sure he did get on.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm thinking maybe Dan just took the number and moved that or multiplied that out slightly incorrectly. That happens. Had a couple of questions we thought we might have Steve from episode 16 of Sports Jeopardy, but he is unable to join us tonight, which is a shame because I had a couple questions for him. That being said, Shimri, your episode aired last week. So tell us, yours was actually the first episode taped and got pushed back all the way to number 17.
Yeah, we were the very first to tape, and we had good interaction with the producers and with Dan. And I think right away they let us know that they were going to delay it. Like within a week, I got an email from a couple of the producers, and they said they liked the kind of back and forth that I and Patrick, the eventual winner, had with Dan, and they said they thought that would make for good television later on in the season. So I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if they thought that maybe it would be like a ratings boost or whatever the case may be, but they decided to pull it back. So we knew ahead of time, so that was fine with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of interaction, especially with the hug that Dan gave to Patrick to start things off. I'm not sure if you guys all saw that, but that was kind of amusing.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying he was kind of funny because when we first met him, we did a couple of preliminary runs. He just kind of told us to be ourselves and to make it light and have fun with it. So he kind of, I know he was a little nervous, we were a little nervous, and so he just kind of was trying to put us at ease and said just have fun and make it like your sports man cave. So I think that's kind of the atmosphere he was trying to create, and then I think that's what created that initial hug with him and Patrick.
Now, one other thing I noticed from you, your buzzer technique was you kind of held both thumbs up in your hand, and I thought that was kind of curious. And I was wondering where you got that idea to kind of hold both thumbs up, one with the buzzer in your hand, one without.
I don't think it was a conscious thing. I think for me it was the timing mechanism with the buzzers was something that we kept trying to master. At least I did. Even in the practice rounds, it was a little different each time. So I think that just ended up being for me what worked, and they said stick with what worked. That was what the producers said to us, and so I think that's just kind of developed unconsciously. It wasn't a thing that I did intentionally.
I always find it interesting. I guess I can open it up to the rest of the panel because most of you guys have been actually, again, I'm the only one who has not been on set with those buzzers, so I'm sure you guys can all speak of what brought on your own buzzer techniques, if anyone wants to chime in.
I need to hear from Dara on this because she had the most badass technique I've seen. The two arms behind the back maneuver. Right when it first flashed, I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
Well, that technique actually from my hands are really, really small, and I felt like I couldn't really kind of spotty. Secondarily, it was really, really cold. So keep my body close to me. Really, I think that's so organically came from that. I liked it because I think people can really tell if I was bringing in or not. So it's
I think you're having a little bit of difficulty cutting out there. There were things I picked up, like it was cold in the studio, and so you decided that going behind your back was the best idea. I think that, am I correct with that? Okay. So, I mean...
Yes, and also my hands are small.
Okay. Small hand. Okay. Does anyone else want to chime in? John, what... obviously, you had some good luck on the buzzer. What prompted your technique? And
yeah, it didn't start out great.
No.
I started with the buzzer like up at podium level, like in front of my waist, and Dara just slaughtered me in the warm up, but at the start of the day. And I don't know if I noticed her behind the back technique or what, but I ended up just getting my buzzer just down, just full extension of my arm, just the thumb movement, just really isolating that thumb movement and making that my only muscle twitch, which somebody has a great blog. It's from like 20 years ago, but it's still great, about how to buzz well, and it's like, just don't involve too much of your arm, just move the smallest amount that you can, and that's pretty much what I did.
John, you might be talking about Mike Dupay, who won the Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, the 95 or 96 Tournament of Champions.
96, yes.
96. Yeah, because it was the Atlanta Olympics year, I guess, because he's in Atlanta right now. But his advice was to put it on the table or on the desk or whatever, and I'm the opposite of Dara. I've got very large hands, so I couldn't fit mine, so I did exactly what John did. I tried to move nothing but my thumb, and so that's why, like, I hung my arms in front of me like this, but my left wrist was holding, or my left hand was holding on my right wrist, so I couldn't move anything but my thumb. And then later on, when I saw Brad Rutter do that in the Battle of the Decades, I was like, yeah, that feels pretty good, knowing that someone like him does that.
Well, I would say most people would say Brad is probably has the fastest buzzer in the history of the show. So
I disagree with that. I think it's Arthur Chu.
Really, you think
Yes.
Arthur Chu could outbuzz? You think Arthur could outbuzz Brad Rutter?
Yes.
I think, to be honest, in that case, I am really hoping that I'm pretty sure Arthur will come back for a tournament at some point because of how his run went, and so. In that case, I look forward to Arthur versus Brad to see how that buzzer goes. Because
Let's start a Twitter campaign.
Twitter. Or just get the two of them together to just stand there and buzz until they quit. Or...
Hashtag buzz off.
I might work on that. Yeah. Buzz off. Buzz off, kid.
We need to get somebody in there to ask Maggie, because they've got all the buzzes popping up on their little screen all the time, so they know who was in when.
Yeah.
So moving on, actually no, I'm going to keep on Sports Jeopardy for a little bit. any thoughts? I guess you can let us know your own thought process on the Ten Commandments on your Final Jeopardy as opposed to Heidi. Unfortunately, you did not get Final Jeopardy, and that proved to be your undoing. But
Yeah, I mean, there was really no thought process in the sense that it was more of I blanked. I couldn't think of anything, so I was trying to think of something that might have been in that time period that would have been broadcast on network TV that kind of might have been big enough to preempt an NFL game. But it was one of those I couldn't think of anything. So I rather than just leave it blank, I figured just shot in the dark. But looking back on it, I should have gotten that. Like I said, it just wasn't in the cards for me that with that clue.
I think the funniest thing about the Heidi game was that
I thought that was a hard one myself, but
I think it was hard.
yeah.
I think the funniest thing about that game was that Weeb Eubank's wife called him after the game, congratulating him on winning.
yes, that's another of my favorite. That is my second favorite story about the Heidi game. My first favorite story about the Heidi game is the Joe Namath quote that they used in the Final Jeopardy clue. But
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it was kind of funny. Like I said, the NFL Network, I know, like had a documentary, I think maybe a month before that episode, and they mentioned that. And I remember hearing that in passing, but for whatever reason, it didn't connect in my brain at the time that I needed it. So
that is fair. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, yes. I was asked by a female fan after Sports Jeopardy aired this past week, is Patrick single?
That I don't believe I do not believe he is. I do believe he's taken.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, yeah, he does. He has kids. So.
In that case, I'm sure there is a friend of mine who is slightly heartbroken at the moment after hearing that. I guess moving on to the regular show for the week. John, first up, what did you have for lunch at the commissary between Wednesday and Thursday? Because I hate to say that, but there was quite a performance drop-off, and I feel as though you have an excuse readily set up for that.
No, I don't have any external excuses. I have seen a lot of excuses being made on my behalf, and even conspiracy theories on the Jeopardy show Facebook page. But I went on JBoard and kind of added something on to the end of Thursday's post late this weekend. But I ate the same thing on Wednesday as I ate on Tuesday. I ate a little bit more because I was like severely under my allowance on Tuesday with the salad.
Oh.
I only used like $3.50 on Tuesday, and so I threw some more in the box on Wednesday. But I ate, just healthy greens. I might not have taken a big chug of coffee after lunch like I did before almost all of my games in the green room. But mostly, I mean, even watching the show again, having played it, having seen all the questions and heard all the answers, it was still not my board. I kind of had gotten watching the show leading up to like the month between the call and the show. I had kind of settled on this is how confident I have to feel to go in and try to answer a question, and I just wasn't there for any of those. I mean, for a lot of those questions. I mean, of course, I lost some buzzer races. Of course, I got in on some. But there were, like at least 4 categories that I'm just still remember just going, what? The airlines, the Iliad, the illnesses category, that was tough. There's something about, I think it was flowers. The last one was phlox. And at least one more category that the existentialism. At least the ones that weren't the daily double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just weren't my questions, and I feel like Amanda was a little bit more ready to go for it. A lot of her answers kind of had the like this is actually a question kind of tone to them that I would have had if I were offering those answers. But hey, she went for it and I didn't, and she played a great game and won a lot of money.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I have to piggyback on John's saying about the board. It's just that I think that, I kind of had that same sense of stay your lane in that, there are certain categories that you either have to be confident and know and just go after, and if you don't, just pull back. And I think I wish I would have done that. Even rewatching my episode, there were a couple of questions which I took a stab at, which I wasn't quite sure on, and that ended up hurting me going to Final Jeopardy, where I could have had built up a substantial enough lead to not have put myself in risk where I wouldn't have to wager anything. And so I think that's one of the lessons that I took away from it is just kind of stay your lane. There's going to be plenty of opportunities, for the categories you do know and feel confident, but the other ones, you got to be a calculated risk if you're going to go after it.
Speaking of risks, another question I have for John, actually, and it has to do with your big daily double last Monday. What was your thought process on Emerald?
That was a good one. So first I thought, okay, Maggie said that Alex is the only one who gets to rule me out on time, so I'm going to wait until he yells at me. So I'm going to take my time on this one. But I first thing that came to mind was amethyst. It's always the first gem that comes to mind when I have no idea, and it's almost always wrong. So I just tried to push it out and look for clues. I saw either fertility or agriculture in there, and I said, well, that could be green. If this is related to a god of agriculture, I guess you got to come up with that somewhere. So what's a green gemstone? I've got jade. I got emerald. I think of Asia when I think of jade, and some people on JBoard have pointed out that there's actually plenty of jade in like Mexico, Central America. Fortunately, I didn't know that. My depth goes just as deep as Jeopardy's clue depth, and so I just picked emerald and hope for the best.
I'd have never gotten that one.
I didn't get that one either, but
I thought it was all over as soon as I read it. I said, I've got nowhere. There's a lot of gems out there.
Pays to work hard, I guess. I think what was interesting about this week was that out of all the daily doubles, I think at least the first 3 days, I think 8 out of 9 of them, everybody bet the maximum.
I like to think that that I was pushing everybody a little bit. I've had a long-standing policy of going big on daily doubles, and
I like that policy.
All right, I think I had set a little bit of a precedent on Thursday and Friday. I think I had some sizable bets, not true daily doubles until that Emerald one, I think, but like big bets that made big differences, and so I think that people got the idea that they had to use those daily doubles to keep up, and it was kind of fun. It turned into some fun games.
True.
And I was impressed with how the wagering went a lot last week. For those of you who haven't seen today's show, while I'm on the subject of wagering, I am going to, if you haven't seen today's, you may want to plug your ears. I will give you a signal that it's okay. But if you...
I've got on these. What am I doing?
Okay. No, I received a message from Mr. Williams of the Final Wager.
Oh.
And he wants you to pass along the message. And he's like, in case you guys discuss tonight's game, you can quote me. That was the single worst wagering performance I've ever seen over the course of an episode.
Oh.
What?
I'm looking forward to it.
Whoa.
I haven't yet.
Oh, and he's seen some bad ones.
Yes, he's seen some bad ones. I'm kind of curious now. I almost now want to see his his libation of choice
Mm-hmm.
during
I want to hear
own,
his exclamation of choice. This is just 1 year and a few days after Sarah McNitt.
yes. Hmm.
Now, if you look at the game theory, let's say that like if player A bets to lock and player B bets to react, and then well, whatever. In a 2/3 situation, there's an end such that if you think on the nth plane, 4,000 is right.
Hmm.
But we won't get into that.
By the way, my own nominee before whatever happens tonight on worst wager of all time, I believe, goes to current Washington Post columnist Alexandra Petrie, who was in third place behind two tied leaders and bet everything. And
That
I would
happened.
consider that to, in terms of, I would consider that to be the worst wager of all time, because that is, of course, the most likely to get you eternal shame from the general public after your wager ends up on YouTube for, look at these three idiots finishing at $0. So
Oh, that, yeah. Yep.
that's
That could
why I
easily
consider
happen
hers
on
to be the
mine,
worst
Andy.
wager of all time. Sorry, go ahead, Terrence.
Oh, sorry. I said that could have easily happened on mine. Me and one of my competitors, we were tied for the lead, and the other guy was only 250 behind us. And for some reason, he bet it all. Luckily, we all ended up getting Final Jeopardy right. But if it was a triple stumper, it would have been kind of embarrassing. It would have been the old triple goose egg. So, yeah,
but
I didn't understand why he bet it all either. But it didn't end up mattering.
Well, I mean, in the defense of Sports Jeopardy, the way the format works with the with the Tournament of Champions, betting everything, it becomes a much more rational decision. So I'm not going to give anyone as hard of a time for betting everything in final, knowing that if you're thinking far enough ahead, you could actually need that extra point. So
Yeah, and
that's my own thought on that.
that was one of the things that kind of weighed in my mind as well, being the first episode recorded where there was no pace setter, so we were the pace setter. So thinking about trying to post a high enough score to not only win but also potentially be a top 3 score at the end of the season was something that we all talked about openly in the green room before the episode taped, and even I know that we all had in mind as the episode was going on. So.
Mm-hmm. Good to know. Let's see, what else do I have to... Oh, yes. Oh, heavens. Last week, I wanted to... Oh, boy, the interviews. I'm sorry, but the preponderance of how I met my significant other.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of those stories last week. I don't know what Alex's obsession with those are, but...
What are his two favorites? Is that and what else? I can't remember. It like the two stories he likes the most are How I Met Your Mother, and there was something else. I don't remember what it is. Maybe someone out on Twitter or someplace can chime in. But he hates cats.
Maybe he wants to write a book.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's, I was just... What about Wednesday? I mean, I'm not... Whoever follows me on Twitter could see my disdain by the time Wednesday rolled around for those, especially let's hit all three of them on the same day, and like, no, please stop.
Yeah, sorry, he just takes what we give him. At least mine was short and sweet and kind of funny.
I like
And
yours.
Not like nice. It wasn't neat, cute.
Yours cracked me up.
Okay, how does the panel think about last Monday's final in terms of the 20th century Brits? I thought that was pretty difficult, or at least in the, you've got to know what specific person died in the in that accident.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty hard.
One thing I liked about it was that a lot of finals, and there's one I have in mind that's kind of the opposite. It was the very last Battle of the Decades final, asking which two secretaries of state were never married, which meant that you had to know your history and your current events. But this final was kind of the opposite because you could approach it in two ways, one of which was history. You could have known who died in a motorcycle wreck in 1935, but another one was film. Because if you watch the movie Lawrence of Arabia, well, you know what happens at the beginning. And so that brings up a pretty interesting question. Liz has never seen it, but I wonder if it has more of an impact, that opening scene when he gets on the motorcycle, if you know what happens or if you don't know what happens.
That's an excellent
I
point,
don't
Ben.
know.
I think I do.
It's almost a spoiler.
I also haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, but that might make things interesting when I do get to see it, knowing that about his own life.
Mm-hmm.
See, I said what prominent English person would have died in the mid-30s and thought, oh, 1936, they had 3 kings. And I went for the King of England, thinking about it. But
I'm always
that's
just
a shout out. That's a shout out to Jonathan Hankey and his anniversary came up. That was his final about 10 years ago, and I can't believe it's been that long since he's been on Jeopardy because I've been around the community that long, and I certainly don't feel that old. So.
Now, I'm just always amazed, like, just the randomness of how, like, the degree of difficulty of each final Jeopardy from one day to the next. I think for the most part they're usually challenging, but sometimes they seem, like the one from last Monday seemed so much more difficult or so much more obscure than others. So it's just, I always find it a bit, random.
A lot of them are like two-parters. Like you have to think of A in order to get to B, and B is the correct response. Mondays was you either know it or you don't.
Yeah.
And, I prefer the first kind, but, you can't do that every week.
You do realize, Ben, that Pericles, Prince of Tyre, is one of those ones of which you speak, right?
Yes, that was that was one of those that was like on a list, but you had to just know the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an English professor who presented me with the complete works of Shakespeare. And she was like, I think you could use this. And I said, what, did you know Pericles of Tyre? She said, nope. So, whatever. I didn't know it either. No one did.
Yeah. Shirley, have you thought about trying out for the regular show?
I have. I actually was supposed to audition for it, but I was taking the week that they asked me to come in to audition. So when I was supposed to audition, I was going to Scotland for an MFA class that I was taking. So since then, I haven't been able to try out again because I've had 2 children in the last 21 months. So.
Oh wow.
You're a strong man.
So it's taking up a lot of my time. Joyfully, but.
Yeah.
One thing I've also noticed as of late is that we've had a lot of consecutive games. In fact, every game last week had at least one clue unseen.
Oh.
What's the best way of getting through all 61 clues? What do we think?
I think the contestants got to keep it moving. There's a lot of kind of hemming and hawing, almost like some people have been almost surprised they got it right, and then they're satisfied with themselves, and it takes them a second to choose the next one. The video clues definitely take up some time, but yeah, I think it's up to the contestants mostly to just keep it moving, and once you get the answer, go right on. I know Friday's episode, it seemed like an especially tough one where there were a lot of triple stumpers, so that just naturally takes a lot more time rather than having people buzzing in quickly and getting them. So combination of that.
Yeah, Friday's Double Jeopardy just was like a minefield. I was wondering if there were going to be like 4 categories with unseen clues by the end.
I wrote Byron on Friday.
So did I.
Me too.
I get them mixed up all the time. I had one in the final tournament champions final that was either Byron or Keeps took a chance, got it right, but they actually told Arthur and Julia and me to slow down.
Really?
Yeah. They said slow it, trim sail a little bit, but I don't know. I guess we were just nervous, but a lot of people are going to say that the best way to speed up the game is to cut the contestant interviews. But I don't think that's right. I think they should leave them.
Yeah, I think they should leave the contestant interviews. I think, just as John's saying, if you get a good rhythm, and also I think as contestants, once you see the board, have a bit of a strategy as far as knowing, anticipating you're gonna get the answer correct, and then just have a strategy of which category you're gonna go to next, so you can keep it moving. And that's kind of what they told us on Sports Jeopardy, even though I know that has one fewer category and one fewer level, so we were able to get through the questions quicker. But I think just being able to have a strategy and knowing, okay, once I get done with this category, try to move on to this next one. That might give it that rhythm to keep it pushing forward.
And also with Sports Jeopardy, you have the advantage of not being tied to a fixed running time as well, because you're online, you can take whatever running time you need to get the game done.
That's true.
I actually noticed in watching the episodes, it tells you the runtime of them, and I'm sure it's because we went to a tiebreaker in mine, but I think mine was like 4 minutes longer than the other ones, it seems, for the most part. So I guess for that reason they ended up trimming some stuff, but it still ended up running the longest. Ben, I'm surprised they told you guys to slow down. I thought that final of the Tournament of Champions was about the best episode. That and the Battle of the Decades final was just quick moving. I mean, great playing. Everybody was rolling. So I thought that was pretty great. So I was surprised they tried to pull you back a little bit.
Yeah, that was very entertaining, like the speed of it.
Well, it was a lot of fun to play. I think I was just talking too fast. Maybe we were all just talking too fast. And, when you're up there playing, you're not concerned about, going through all the clues. You're concerned about getting a lead or holding on to a lead or trying to take the lead.
But yes,
I would not to make an idiot out of yourself too.
Yeah.
Well, I would probably venture that Ben, Julia, and Arthur are the first group they've ever had to tell to slow down. So I would put good money on that one. So
I don't think I dreamed it, but man, that was fun. It was fun watching y'all.
Yeah, I felt that. I mean, it's funny you said that they asked you guys to slow down, because I felt like even with everything went by so fast. I thought like we were up on the platform, and then it felt like within seconds we were done, and I was like, this just happened. It was like such a blur.
Yeah, makes two of us.
Let's see.
I'll
My
co-sign.
next question, I think it's for the. Sorry, go ahead, John. You looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just co-signing just the fact that it flies by. I was talking to Josh, one of my opponents, in one of my later days, and he was just like, I just want to just stay up here for the warm-ups. I just want to play all day.
So, a question for the panel as a whole. This is in reference to Amanda on Friday. She took a little bit of heat on the internet for her answer of Forrest Gump on the Philadelphia tour on Friday.
That was a jaw drop.
Well, I suppose in her defense, I think she's very young, and she was like 4 when, for like 2 or 3 when Forrest Gump came out. So that might have been, if on list knowledge alone of Best Picture or Best Actor roles, obviously she had the 50-50 and she went the wrong way. But it's kind of, to those who were around in that time and have seen the movies, it's kind of like, how could you get them mixed up? But on that note, I did want to ask the panel what you thought your most embarrassing neg was.
I'm gonna let y'all go ahead on that.
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
I mean, besides the Final Jeopardy that I lost, or
yeah, well, that could even be your most embarrassing neg.
Yeah, probably. Well, that, and I did like the Danica Patrick one. I think for me personally, just because I knew the answer and I almost spit out "Who is GoDaddy," and that was what was going to come out of my mouth, and that's why I stopped, and I just couldn't get the name Danica Patrick out. So that for me was a bit frustrating.
Huh. What was the clue?
Oh, I mean, it was the autobiographies, and it basically said something about her being like voted like just hottest driver or good looking driver or something like that. Along with something to that effect, appealing to her physical attractiveness as well as her ability in the car. And
Oh.
I knew the answer. I mean, it was right on forward, but and I could see it in my brain, and for whatever reason, GoDaddy.com, power of advertisement. That was the only thing that was in my brain at the time, and I couldn't
Okay.
spit it out.
I guess the commercials are working then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
working against me though.
Yeah.
So, John, what was your most embarrassing neg?
Well, I had a real bad one near the end of my last game where there was a question in character, and the genie from Aladdin was asking a question. It was a really easy question about the song.
Yeah.
Never had a friend like me. So that's embarrassing now that I think about it. But the one that really got me, which I tweeted, right around the time it played in my market, that I have a theory that if you put anyone on TV for long enough, they'll say something like just jaw-droppingly embarrassing or something. That one was when I guessed that maybe the continent where the lowest temperature ever recorded in the snowy mountains or on Snowy Mountain or whatever was negative 34 degrees Celsius. I guess that might have been Antarctica, even though that temperature is like not even abnormal for Michigan.
Yeah.
I just felt so stupid as soon as I got done saying it because I just lost focus on the clue entirely and just was way wrong.
So let's move on. I'm not sure how your audio is, Jeannie. Do you want to speak of what you think your most embarrassing neg is?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. You've been on this show, haven't you?
I think I know what it's going to be.
Telling me to say that, so.
Do we need to? It's William Tell, isn't it?
I better not whistle that.
Yeah, I think Jeannie's having audio issues conveniently having audio issues at this point, which is fine. Ben, what would you say your most embarrassing neg was?
Did I know I did?
Probably the first one I had. I said that Bud Bundy was older than Kelly. And now, like, Eastern South Carolina is a big high school football country, and whenever somebody gets 4 touchdowns in a single game,
Yeah.
I'm friends with a sports writer for the morning news, and he gives me the business about that. So, whatever. I thought he was, and then I thought about it. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm wrong. So that wasn't a brain fart. That was just me.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be up on your Married with Children trivia, Ben. Come on.
That's for sure. Best show ever, other than Sanford and Son.
You know, I wish Dara was able to. She was having a lot of audio issues. I was hoping to get her to talk positively about another what beer she was drinking again, because it looked like she had taken a couple of sips on there. So I was curious as to what she was drinking tonight. So it would have been nice to get her a chance to discuss various craft beers, and hopefully I don't come across as much of an idiot as thinking that Goose Island hadn't been taken over. But
Has it?
yeah, it's owned by Budweiser now. I learned that on the show last week.
Dang it.
But I think we're at the point where I ask if any panelists have any questions for any of the other panelists. And
Andy, did you mention about King of the Nerds starting Friday?
oh, I did not. Thank you for reminding me. Yes. The man who I used to refer to as the most recent Tournament of Champions winner before Ben won, Colby Burnett. His run on King of the Nerds begins this coming Friday.
Okay.
That is on, I believe, is it TBS?
Yeah,
States?
TBS.
TBS airs it. I'm not sure if we get that up where I am, but
No,
I
I
will
hope
search through.
so.
I will search through. Actually, wait a second. The good thing I may. Well, actually, no. I am in Detroit this weekend on Friday, so if I am not gallivanting around downtown Detroit, I may attempt to watch that. But,
Tell Denny McLean hello for me.
Interestingly enough, I am going to be at Tiger Fest this weekend. So
Nice.
I was going to ask. Well, that was one of my questions for the panel. Was what you were doing in Hockeytown.
yes, Tiger Fest is this coming weekend, and so I will be attending that with a friend of mine. And yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm just wondering if at this point, yeah, I have no other questions in my email or on any of my messaging. So if anyone else has any, do you guys have any questions for anyone else?
Hey, John, I know you mentioned in, I think, your last interview about how you were going to use some of your winnings as some seed money for your wife's some kind of cooking, baking business. How has that turned out in the time since you taped?
Well, I also mentioned in that interview that she was not aware of it.
Right.
And so we're in talks. We're talking about how we can kind of start building up to that. I don't they haven't paid me yet, and we don't know what we have to do yet. So we'll look into something, but we haven't. There's nothing doing just yet.
Was she all right with letting that cat out of the bag on national TV when she hadn't known yet, or finding out like in that spot?
Oh, I mean, it's not that there was actually anything to find out, which is the funny part. This is another thing that I use as an excuse for my performance in that game. It was the first time that I was sweating under the lights because I knew that it was the thing. Like out of my 3 or 4 things that were written down on the card at the time, I knew that it was the thing Alex was going to ask me about, and it wasn't. It's not really a thing. I was just making it up. And I mean, she is really good at baking. My coworkers do often say, "You should sell these," but we have no idea how. And it's just like it's not like we've really been pursuing that at all before this point. So, Karina caught me talking about it in the green room, and she was like, "Oh, we're gonna put that down. That sounds great."
Uh-oh.
So it wasn't a real thing. I was nervous talking about it because it wasn't a real thing. I don't want to put her on the spot because she doesn't deserve that. All she does is just bake really well. It's not that she asked for a lot of cupcake business-based attention. So,
John, I don't like how
I'll keep everybody updated.
Fourth wall down for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do want to chime in at this point, and I do say that there are companies that exist out there, and I think there may be even one based out of Ann Arbor that do provide services for food-based small businesses, product development and things like that. So if there are groups out there, there are companies out there that do that kind of help small businesses bring food-related products to market. So in case you ever want to go down that route, those kind of companies do exist to help. So,
all right.
See, this is a networking meeting, John. You didn't realize that.
Right. Yeah. Well, so now it's all out. The Ann Arbor online paper ran a series of stories that they mostly just updated with quotes from the show. But now everybody in Ann Arbor.
Everybody wants to taste it, right?
I guess. So, we'll see. I'll keep you updated. Andy follows me on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'll let him know.
Okay.
I did have a question for Jeannie.
Okay.
I've seen that you do crossword puzzles really fast.
Oh.
That's what I see on Twitter. I see
Yeah.
your completion times. And so I wonder, when like a wordplay category comes up on Jeopardy, do you totally kick butt at it?
I guess I like to think so. I don't know. I guess I haven't really paid attention to that in a while. I like the wordplay categories, so I guess I get more into them than the other kinds of clues. So I guess I do. I'll have to start paying attention to that.
All right.
Okay.
Because
Sorry, go ahead.
I just had, I had a real hard one about color anagrams.
That was
And
hard.
I was just, just dead in the water for most of them. I needed
Oh.
help to get the one that I did end up getting, because Elizabeth next to me was very close to getting one of the words but didn't get the other one. And so I wondered if like that was, oh, what's an anagram of the cure? That's a color? I know that.
Oh, no, I think that was really hard for me too, actually.
Oh,
This is what
that's
would
okay.
help if I could look back at old Coriat sheets and see how I did exactly, but I think that one killed me too, that category.
You know who did really well in that category? The competitive Scrabble player.
You?
Ooh, nice.
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yes. I spend a couple of hours, 1.5 to 2 hours a day, just anagramming words really quickly for practice for tournaments because it just makes it a lot easier to come up with them in game situations. And so, Scarlet and Cartels and Clarets, and there's also Crestal as the fourth one in there. So
Now you're just showing off.
yeah, I am just showing off now. But
I think I might have gotten the teal and tail. I'm looking at the archive now, but I think the rest of them I didn't know.
Ecru and Cure is
I get none of those things. Don't tell David Gibson though. I might be seeing him this weekend. We'll see.
ooh.
Who's that?
Ooh, that
David
hurts.
Gibson is probably, I would say, among the top 5 Scrabble players in existence.
Yeah, at least.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worldwide, I'd put him in the top 5.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm not, because I would say Nigel Richards would give him a run. Adam Logan, maybe Dave Wiegand on a good day. But I would definitely put David Gibson in the top 5.
Huh.
He's a nice guy.
Where
I
are
got a
you going to
question.
see him, Ben?
Oh, I'm going to Spartanburg, and that's where he lives, and that's where I went to college. He teaches at another college, but he's a cool cat.
Okay.
I got a
You
question
know-
for Jay.
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to ask John. Are you a .NET guy?
No, I write pretty much everything in Java for work.
Smart.
So Ben, are you Gamecocks or Tigers?
I'm gonna go with option A. Wofford College first, and I got a master's from Carolina, so
Okay.
those are my boys.
All right.
Had 4 good years. Last year, not so good, but women's basketball #1,
Come on, yeah.
and I think they won again tonight. So it's good to be a Gamecock.
That's
I
nice.
kind of take offense to you using Carolina, throwing that around so liberally, Ben, but I don't want to.
Yeah. You make a good point. You make a good point because when I was overseas, I had to room with someone, and he was a Tar Heel alum, and we agreed that we would call Carolina North Carolina because y'all came first, and USC would be South Carolina because we came first. So fair enough.
Seems fair. I went to the super regional baseball best out of 3 a couple years ago, where it was North Carolina against South Carolina, and they were really promoting the whole winner gets to be Carolina thing with it.
That's a great rivalry. I wish it was more than it was, but it's a pretty good rivalry.
Yeah.
And your student athletes actually go to class, Ben, so that's okay.
Oh my God!
No,
Why?
I'm just I had to. Sorry.
Wofford College, yeah, they definitely go to class. Too soon.
Too soon.
Man, that hurts.
Oh.
Cut me deep, Shimmery.
No, listen. That's what, no, it's funny now because I root for the Tar Heels as well, like for men's college basketball. So I feel I can poke fun of them.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for us to sign off for another week. Thank you all for taking part. I'm sorry Dara couldn't quite stay to the end with us, but
Yeah.
she
She'll be back.
passes along her thanks to us for allowing her to take part as well, and I'd like to thank her. I'd also like to thank our panel once again, Terrence, Shimry, John, Jeannie, and Ben. We'd certainly like to have all of you guys back at some point. So thank you guys all for taking part. Thank you for tuning in, listening, and
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
for those of you who care about the site, we should have a recap from tonight's game up shortly. We'll see if Keith was simply trolling our panel or if he actually felt that there was a horrible wagering situation. So I haven't seen it, so we shall see what happens. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in once again. I'm Andy Saunders, and have a great night. See you next week.